Becoming the teacher that yells is the quickest way to become the teacher that is no longer effective. This is the third episode in my series where I take you on my morning walks to walk you through the questions that I had as a first-year elementary music teacher, the things that I stumbled upon, and what I did to make myself grow into the teacher that I now am. Hopefully this will save you a bit of grief, give you a little bit of confidence, and stop you from making the same mistakes that I did. Now, behavior management is one of the trickiest parts about teaching, and it's going to be the part that you're going to spend the first months, years of being an educator trying to figure out what your style is. And in this episode, I'm not going to say that I will delusionally fix all of those months and months of hard work of you finding out who you are and what your behavior management style is, but I do hope to make it a lot easier and stop you from becoming the teacher that yells, unless you descend into the black vortex. But we'll get to that later. Because at the end of the day, if you're yelling, then you're really not teaching, you're not building relationships, and you're not giving your students the experiences they need to want to become lifelong learners, and in my case, lifelong musicians. Now, the first thing that I would recommend is not to fall victim to the I'll wait teacher moments, to the call and response or the three-finger rule, meaning that your only way of getting your students' attention is some sort of call and response like all eyes, then your students say on me, or where you hold up three fingers and wait for your students to then do the same thing. What I don't like about this is there's really no immediate consequence if students don't follow this rule. And there's also not a great visual stimulus that tells students when they're not meeting expectations. What I don't like about these tools is that a lot of times there's no immediate next step in mind and no consequence for if these steps aren't followed. These tools can be great if used in conjunction with something else, but a lot of times they also imply no time frame, meaning that a lot of times teachers are standing there with three fingers in the air going, I'll wait. I'll wait. We should never imply that it's okay that we're waiting on our students. We should always be implying that we have something to teach, something important that they're going to need to learn, and that having us wait is hurting the entire class.
What I do in my class is have music on the board.
Because when music is up on the board, it means that we can make it. It means our eyes are up on the speaker, our bodies are calm, and our voices are off and ready to learn.
This is nothing fancy. All I did was create a document with giant letters for music, printed it out, cut them up, laminated them, and then stuck a magnet on the back of each.
By having this visual representation that tells my students when they are meeting my expectations, I also have something that clearly tells my students when they are not. If my students are talking when I'm talking, if they're not raising their hands, if their bodies aren't calm and their eyes aren't on me, I have a very clear action to take that does not involve me raising my voice in any way to get the point across that something's going on here. I can simply turn, walk to the whiteboard, put my hand on the letter C, maybe wait a second or two. Though I don't like always waiting, because then that again implies that it's okay to make me wait. And they may actually come to rely on, oh, well, we have a few seconds to finish up. So sometimes I just remove the C immediately. We don't always have a big lengthy discussion on why I removed it, because 9 times out of 10, they know why I removed it. So all I have to say when my students do quiet down, which always happens, not because I'm this amazing teacher, but because my earn system means something to them. And we're gonna go more into why that is in just a bit. But all I have to say after I remove that C, the quiet has happened, the expectations are being met, is earn it back, because they can always earn it back.
When music is up on the board, we can make it. If you lose a letter, you can earn it back. And if you leave with music on the board, you get 2 points. These points are then connected to each class's piano, and they look like this. Each class gets a small keyboard section with a movable sticker. When I was on a cart, they were kept in a binder, and I brought it with me so the students could see their progress, but when I'm in the classroom, they're displayed for everyone to see.
At the beginning of the year, all my students start with their stickers at the beginning of the piano, and every time that they keep music on the board, they earn 2 points and get to move up 2 steps on the piano.
At the beginning of the year, I only use the white keys, and the sticker just moves like this.
Now, if my students end the class with only music on the board, meaning that at some point they lost their C and didn't earn it back, it means they only get 1 point. Anything under just missing the C, and it means that they get no points. Now, that being said, sometimes all of my students are raising their hands, their bodies are calm, and their voices are off, and they're all learning. That's when I always keep a magnetic A very close nearby.
And usually say something like, "Nice work, keep it up."
I give out this A like it is candy.
Because if they keep the A up until the end of class, they actually get 3 points, but they could always earn the double L.
All my students know that the double L's are a big deal, and I don't give it out lightly. My students have to be doing something more than just meeting my expectations for them to earn the double L's. And even with the best class, I still only give them out maybe once or twice a year. There needs to be something special happening. Maybe they're showing compassion and teamwork with their classmates. Maybe we reached a goal that we were really pushing to reach. But at the end of the day, the double L's have to mean something. And my students need to know that they did something that mattered to make that experience mean something. And to make the double L's mean something and want to earn them again.
Lastly, I have the Y, spelling out musically, because if they earn it, it means they are being musically minded. I've only given out the Y one time. It's meant to be this elusive thing, and it is meant to mean something.
So often we're giving out prizes to our students instead of experiences that matter to them. And then we're expecting them to mean the same thing. Kids, just like adults, know when they have actually earned something and when something's just handed to them. And the thing that they work for is the thing that's going to matter to them more. Not the consolation prize just because they did something, but a meaningful experience that tells them that they did something. The Y tells my students that there is something that they can always be learning, something that they can always be reaching for. But that doesn't mean that's the only time I would ever praise them. When I give my students the A, which again I give out like candy, I make sure that I'm telling my students, oh my goodness, amazing job. Look at what you're doing. When I give out my students the double L's, it means something. Oh my gosh, you guys got the double L's. The Y is there because that near perfection that we're never actually looking to attain, but we're always looking to reach for, is always there, telling my students that we can always do a little more to be the amazing learners that we want to grow into being one day. It tells my students that there is something else worth working toward. You're not a black belt after only 2 classes. You'll never hit a home run if you haven't been practicing, and you won't become a lifelong learner and musician unless you've taken the time to learn and experience all you need to experience in order to reach that goal. Just like I know that I can always be doing more to become a better teacher, explain things better, give deeper experiences. And though these earn systems help me to become the teacher that doesn't yell, they also aren't the best at preventing behavior management from even being necessary. That's gonna come in some of our later episodes. So make sure that you're liking, subscribing, and following along, because there's a lot that you and me still have to learn together. Now, that being said, at my last school, I did, after being there for 5 years, give out the Y. It was coming time where I knew that I was going to be leaving the school. And this class wasn't necessarily the most well-behaved class, but it was the class that was showing me that they were working their hardest to achieve the goals that we had set out for ourselves to achieve. The time that I gave out the Y came in conjuncture with them meeting those goals, them showing amazing teamwork, compassion to their fellow students, and was a pretty magical day for me and for them. It also implied that when I went out for recess duty that day, I was suddenly bombarded with students all saying, did you really give out the Y to 4th grade? Did 4th grade really earn the Y? The 4th graders at that recess were rock stars to the rest of the school because all the students knew what kind of a achievement they had done. It was an experience that mattered not only to my 4th graders, but to the entire school, and it meant something, and it mattered. Now, you know my visual and my point system, but what actually are some of the earns that I use that are just so inviting for my students? My first earn actually ends up being the same for kindergarten through 3rd grade, and I tell my students that what they need to do for their first earn is they need to go from the beginning of the piano to the end of the piano before the last class before winter break, which if you've been teaching for even just 1 year, you know it's gonna be one of the hardest times of the year. And if you haven't been, then again, keep following along because I'll have plenty of tips and tricks to help you survive that crazy week. And this might be one of them. What I do is some of my students earn that quicker and get to the end of the piano, and some it takes them a lot longer, and sometimes classes haven't earned that. But what we do is actually a movie day. Now, before you think that this is just an easy class for me, what I want to tell you is that this movie is called Olaf's Frozen Adventure, and it actually ties in what I have been talking to my students about for the 2 weeks leading up to it. In my classroom, one of the things that I know that I need to instill is a curiosity in my students for other cultures and other types of music. So what I end up doing before the holiday break is we talk about all the different winter holidays that are celebrated all around the world. And what's great about Olaf's Frozen Adventure is actually how many of these he goes over, all while singing some really awesome songs with some surprisingly awesome harmony. So I do some of the normal stuff. I pop popcorn, I get whatever treats the school will allow me to bring in, and I get my students set up so they can have a cozy music class. But what I love about Olaf's Frozen Adventure is that it's only 22 minutes long, meaning I still have time to get my students in, give them a quick wiggle break to get out all those crazy pent-up energy that comes before the holiday break, pass out the snacks, and still have time throughout the movie to pause it and say, well, what holiday is he talking about here? And by the end, we can have a nice cool down where we all talk about the different holiday traditions that we're looking forward to during this winter break.
The next earn might include something like the parachute, class outside, which I have a video for that you can check out here. All right, free recess. Now, this is for very special cases, for some tougher classes. I also am going to be talking a little bit about what to do with those tougher classes later on. All right, we might do some free instrument play where they get to choose, or we do an instrument petting zoo, which is always a big hit, or something else that we've talked about as a class that I know will motivate them to meet my expectations, especially in this long term.
All of these earns are special because I usually don't do them more than 2 to 3 times a year. It needs to be a big deal if it happens, and it needs to be a bit of a bigger deal if it doesn't happen. Now, what I do for my older students is similar, but definitely not as cutesy. And I can actually link a video here that I've already done talking about what I do for my older students somewhere around here. What I love about this earn system is that I not only have a clear visual that tells my students when expectations are not being met, but there's also a clear impact on the future and an impact on the immediate present. Because what I do is I say the thing that I know my students love. Be that instruments, independent composing time, a scarf dance, or whatever my students love the most. We don't do until the end of class, and we don't do unless the word music is up on the board. Because when music is up on the board, that means that we can make it. So again, the visual means that I'm not yelling. My students have a goal that they're working towards. The students might miss out on something if the expectations aren't being met. And they have a clear path that tells them how to get back on track, and that they can always earn whatever letter they have lost back. And not only that, but go farther and excel at my expectations. But it mainly started because I didn't want to be the teacher that was waiting. I had important things to teach. And I also didn't want to become the teacher that yells. Unless we're talking about the black vortex. My favorite music education teacher in college, Dr. Corey Ganshaw, talked to me about the black vortex. It was only to be used when everything else has been tried and everything else has failed. Now, she also talked about how you can literally stop a class and say, all right, everybody, we all have some of those days, but we need a restart. I'm going to leave the classroom. When I come in, the slate is cleared. We're going to start from A and go from here. So I mean, the black vortex is the last thing that you try, and you use it very, very sparingly. And though I have used it, and it has been effective with certain students, meaning the students that I know I can yell at, meaning the students who are not being already yelled at every day, or the students who are used to letting adults down. We're talking about that tough class here. The black vortex is never for them. But I do have a video that I'll link somewhere around here about the steps that I take for the class that is the tough class, that is the tricky class, and what I've done before to have them grow with me. And if you know that you already have a class like that, I'd encourage you to not only watch it, but also be ready for that same meaningful experience that we're trying to give our students, but for you. Because the trickiest class that then learns and grows with you, the class that you've really made an impact on, is the class that's going to stick with you for the rest of your teaching career, and the one whose experience will matter to you. Now, again, I say all this episode is trying to give you some tools so that you don't become the teacher that yells, but it will not be giving you the tools that you need to necessarily prevent the negative behaviors. That will come in some of my later walking sessions, but it will help to give your students a clear visual for when expectations are not being met and how to get back on track. It will also give them something to work towards and give them some experiences that matter because they have worked for them. So make sure you're liking, subscribing, and following along. But if you've watched the last 2 episodes, then you know that now I've earned a little something myself. My favorite part of the walk. Devon,
Yeah.
do I get coffee now? Thank you.
You're welcome.
We will see you in the next episode. Oh, lovely baby. Happy playing.